High dynamic range photography is a set of techniques used in imaging and photography to reproduce a greater dynamic range of luminosity than is possible with standard digital techniques. What you need is a camera, preferably a DSLR that you can shoot raw files. You need a tripod or a fast enough shutter speed, but I recommend a tripod. And then you need to be able to bracket your exposures 3 to 5 frames. Once you have those exposures, you then need software to process those exposures, either something like Photoshop or Photomatrix, and there are other types out there, but those are the two that I have used. You want to find a subject that contains shadow and highlight areas. Then you want to set your camera to aperture priority mode. Then you also want to set your camera to bracket 3 or 5 exposures, or you can put your camera on manual and do it manually. First, take a reading of the scene, and then take an exposure, then go over 2 stops, and then under 2 stops for a 5 exposure. Here's a 3 exposure example. So we have the aperture the same, so it doesn't affect the depth of field, and then we just have the shutter speed change. So you can see more detail in the shadow and the highlights. Here's another example. This one is actually better. You're better able to see what the HDR can do. In the first one, it's a little bit overexposed in the sky, and then the second one, it's underexposed in the shadows, and the third, it's even more underexposed in the shadows. And when you put those exposures together, you have your sky and detail in the shadows. It does have an unnatural effect. There's a kind of a yellow color in the clouds and a pink. Some people enjoy that technique. There are ways to use it in black and white so that you don't have that color change. So we'll explore that in another video. Here's some more examples. There you have the subject in front of a window, and then when you put the exposures together, you have more detail. There's another way to do toning. It's called HDR toning, and with Photoshop you can just use a filter to create the HDR technique. Also, for more information, you can go to Trey Radcliffe's video tutorial on www.stuckincustoms.com. He has a lot of examples and very good tutorials.